All right, y'all. Welcome back to the podcast. So today's topic is really interesting and actually really exciting because I'm pretty much known for being the Evergreen Queen. I've been doing Evergreen, since 2019, before it was super popular. And I often get asked all the time is like, Lattice, I've tried Evergreen. How can I actually make it work? Because they come to me and they're like, it's not working. I don't know what I did wrong. I don't know how to fix it. Evergreen doesn't work. And they default to that. And I am living, breathing like testimonial that Evergreen works. And so are dozens and dozens and dozens of my clients. Okay. So let's kind of dive in and we're going to break down how to actually get your Evergreen to work and where you really need to focus your attention on when you're trying to optimize an Evergreen funnel. The one thing that I will say is that it can take time. I've had clients where their Evergreen funnels have worked immediately. I have a client, Ariana, she's crushing it. Basically the first recording we knocked out, crushed, literally crushed. So then I have other clients where it's taken 5, 6, 7 times for their webinars to work. Or like one of my clients, Sarah, I think we recorded her mini course 2 or 3 times, fixed her ads 5 or 6 times, and all of a sudden in the last week and a half, she's enrolled 3 high-ticket clients into her program. So it does take time, but if you are willing to put in the time, it can and it will work for you. Okay. So let's dive right in and I'm going to break down how to actually get your Evergreen funnel to work. Okay. So let's no holding back. So the first thing when I think about Evergreen funnels and how to actually get them to work is I really want to think about how the actual funnel is set up, because a lot of times when I talk to people, they have a million different pages, they have a million different options, a million different places they're sending their clients or their leads, and it gets really messy and confusing. So over the last few years, I've really dialed it in from a perspective of simple is better. So I know a lot of people like to use those fancy softwares like Stealth Webinar or Ever Webinar. And I found that those softwares are just kind of clunky and a little bit over the top. So we have really narrowed down, we run all of our funnels currently through Lead Pages. So Lead Pages is a landing page building software that really allows us to make changes very quickly without all the extra. I found that those other softwares are just clunky and unnecessary. So when we think about your Evergreen funnel, I also want you to think about what's the goal, because in my humble opinion, I typically will recommend people to run a high ticket Evergreen funnel first before they run something quote unquote passive. And the reason why is because you're going to end up being able to get a higher return on your ad spend, a higher return on your investment. And then overall, you're going to have more profit in that funnel than if you were selling like $1,000 course or $2,000 course if you were relying on ads. Okay. So let's kind of break it down and talk about what are the pages that you need to actually have a successful Evergreen funnel. So the first really important page is that you need a page where people can actually opt in. So they need to be able to type in their phone number, their name, their email, etc. Okay. So I typically recommend for starters, if you're just starting out baseline, all you need is their first name and their email. Okay. That's all that you need. You don't need their phone number quite yet. You don't need all of that other stuff because that's going to add a layer of complexity onto the funnel that right now we're not trying to deal with. So on the opt-in page, I want it to be really, really, really simple. I want it to be a bright picture of you, and I want it to be a opt-in form where you're asking for first name and email only. And then on that opt-in page, it's a very clear headline, what the actual training or demo is for. Okay. So I can give you guys a really good example. So a really good framework could be something that I used to run for a really long time was the 3-part training to scale to consistent 10K months without needing a big audience, email list, or at the time I wasn't teaching paid ads. So I taught in my training how to get to 10K months as a coach without needing a big audience, a email list, or paid ads. Okay. So that was the headline. And then underneath there, I said it was a free instant access training. And then from there, I asked for their first name and their email. And then underneath there, I put a little bit of social proof. But besides that, that's all that I had on the page. I often see people have these very long, drawn out pages that are just unnecessary, and they really just clog the vision of the person that's on the other side. So the less info on the page, the better. Remember, our goal is to get them to the page. Okay. So on that opt-in page, be really clear who it's for. You can call out your ideal client for moms, for single dads, for coaches, for service providers, for women of faith, whoever it's for. Then that really strong headline of what the training's actually about, or the demo's about, or even the mini course is about, whatever that's about. And then ask for their first name and their email. Okay, so that's what you want to do in the first opt-in page. The second page is going to be the actual page where the training or mini course or video sales letter is delivered. Okay, so again, you don't need any clunky, fancy webinar software. You just need these very basic landing pages. So once the person opts in, you're going to basically redirect them on the next page to the training. Period. Like, that's what you're going to do. We've tested it a bunch of different ways where we've done tripwire funnels, we've done delays, we've done check your email for the training. We've done these like deadline funnels on the training. We found that the best way to convert is simply redirecting them immediately after they opt in to the training page. Okay. So on that training page, what you want is whatever the video is, or the mini course or the demo, you want that there at the top. You want to have a big headline because you want to make sure that what they just opted in for, when they land on the second page, they remember, right? We don't want them to forget. So you want to basically translate that headline from the opt-in page over to the landing page. Okay. From there, the headline's at the top, who it's for, the headline, and then the video with the video title is going to be right underneath that headline. Okay. And that, I'm not going to necessarily go into too much detail because it can be very complex, but the way that we teach it is we call it a mini course funnel. And there's going to be typically 2 to 3 psychology-based videos. And those videos are usually anywhere from 15 to 25 minutes each. Okay. So those videos are on that one page, completely there, completely available for people to view right away. From there at the bottom, we give them a very clear next step and call to action. So in our business, we don't do sales calls on purpose. I don't like them. I haven't liked them for a long time. We've been doing DM sales for well over 3 years now. So we direct everybody to an application, right? Which is a little bit more of it's a full-fledged application. But on that landing page with the training videos, right, that they've opted in for, they got to right away, we have a button at the bottom of our pages saying like, apply now for such and such program, right? So that's what we have right at the bottom of our pages. So that is really all that you need as far as like the actual like physical funnel setup, like the pages. That's really all that you need, right? You need an opt-in page, a landing page with the actual videos on there. And then from there, you need a application or a book a call page so they can take the next step. Now, if you want to be extra, you can do a thank you page. Once they put in their information for their application or they book a call, it can redirect them to a thank you page. We have found that if you're going to set that up on that thank you page, you really want to have a bunch of social proof. So you want to have customer testimonial videos, you want to have screenshots, you can even have like an FAQ guide, especially if you're doing an application-based process. We have found that having like a simple FAQ guide for them to like any FAQs about the program people may ask, you can have that available and ready for them on that thank you page. Because by the time they make it to that thank you page, they're very warm. So they're inquisitive, they're excited, and they're interested in what the next step's going to be. Okay. So the last part of this is really having a really good follow-up system. So typically you're going to use an email marketing software on the back end to actually like get people like in your world. You're going to indoctrinate them. You're going to share case studies, social proof, all of that, right? So on the back end, you're getting people, you're just reminding them why they applied. You're confirming that you got their application. You're confirming that you got their call, whatever it may be. And then you're just going to be shooting out case studies. Like that's really what tell a little bit of your story. And then the rest of the emails are case studies. Okay. So, and I typically say for a sequence on the back end, you want about 5 to 7 emails. And then from there, after that, you can put them onto your regular email list. Now, let's kind of talk about like what those videos, people always ask, like, well, how do I make psychology-based videos? How do I make a video that people actually will buy from? Here's the first thing that I need you guys to understand is that if you've never done this before, trying to go copy somebody else's webinar isn't going to work. It's not, right? Take it from somebody that has worked with like hundreds of people at this point who've come to me that have tried to do that. It doesn't work, you guys, because you have to understand at a high level that somebody else's message isn't yours. A, B, also you don't understand what are the other mechanisms behind that, right? You don't understand what emails they have. You don't know why they're doing what they have. Do they have a chat bot? Do they have a setter that's calling these people? You don't really know. So trying to copy somebody else's webinar is never going to work. But what I will share with you today is some of the basics that you need when I talk about like psychology-based videos. So you can do something like a video sales letter, which is typically 10 to 60 minutes. I would never have any video longer than 60 minutes on the top of a funnel. I just would never do that because people's attention spans are small. But the one caveat I have there is that if your context and your content is really good, they'll watch. Like they will, because they're in a point where they need a solution and they need help, right? So they will watch the video if it's really good. Okay. So you can either do something like a video sales letter that's like 10 to 60 minutes. You can do what we teach is something called a mini course. It's a series of videos, which there's a whole method to the madness behind the series. If you try to copy my mini course, it's not going to work. So don't try it. And plus I want you guys to be original. Like even if you do something similar as me, you don't do it the way that I do it. So that's just not going to be helpful for you. So you could do a VSL, a mini course, or you could do like a traditional webinar, which a traditional webinar is a little bit more, I would say at this point, it's a little bit more outdated. It still does work. But especially if you're in the B2B space or the biz op space, people kind of have seen the same song and dance, which is kind of why I really like our mini course funnel or even like a demo funnel showing people what they're going to get, especially if you provide like a done for you service. Okay. So let's kind of talk about what is really important to go inside of any of these presentations, a VSL, a demo, a mini course. These are some of the basic pieces that you're going to need to be successful to get people to actually take action to book that call or to apply to work with you. So the first thing is a title needs to be really clear, right? We've talked about that. And here's the thing, like at the end of the day, for somebody to actually watch the video, they have to be enticed to watch the video. So one of the biggest things that I always tell my clients, if they have really low watch rates on their mini courses or their video sales letters or their demos, is to split test the title, because 100% of the time people are going to read the title, but not 100% of people are going to actually watch the video. So if we can split test that title, right, and go from one title to the next and actually monitor it and track it, then we're going to know, okay, that title wasn't resonating with my audience. Okay. So a good standard way to create a title is this: how to, right, get results, right? You're going to insert like how to, maybe I say how to, get to 10K months without the 2 to 3 things that they think they need to get to 10K months. Right. So for an example, like I shared with you guys earlier, without needing a big audience or having to grow an email list. Okay. That was my whole unique sales proposition 3-4 years ago. Okay. So another example could be your funnel title could be, and your headline could be how to lose 10 to 15 pounds without giving up the foods that you love. That's a great one, right? So when you guys are thinking about your titles, clear is always going to be better than clever. And I say this for all types of messaging, but especially your title and headline of the actual video that you're wanting people to watch. Okay. So that's the first thing. The second thing that you want to be really detailed about inside of these videos is that you want to really make it clear who it's for and who it's not for, right? So it's equally important to be clear on who it's not for than who it is for. So an example could be like this. So I personally, in one of my main programs, it's only for coaches. So I say you're an existing coach with an established business that's looking to generate leads on autopilot. So, and you should already have had some clients in your business. So that right there is basically saying like who it's for and who it also is not for. Because if you don't have any clients in your business, this is not going to be the best training for you. And we actually encourage people, if you don't have XYZ, what we're looking for, we actually want you to like not watch the video anymore because it's not going to be useful for you. So the second part of these VSLs, webinars, mini courses is really being crystal freaking clear on who it's for and who it's not for. And if you don't know who that is, I want you to take some time to figure that out. Okay. And oftentimes it's going to be a lot easier to start at who it's not for. And then from there, by default, you're going to get who it is for. Okay. So that should be at the very beginning of the video. You also want to do a brief overview of who you are, what your journey has been, and the results that you've created for yourself, because that's going to give you innate credibility at the very beginning. Now, you don't need to do drawn on stories from when you were 5, like that's unnecessary, but talking about your specific like origin story, what got you started into health and fitness or into business or into, got you into your dream relationship, whatever it is that you help people with, talk about your origin story and then talk about the results that you got. And that should take less than 2 minutes inside of that training. Oftentimes people go wrong here is that they're trying to give way too much backstory. Like we don't need all the backstory, y'all. We don't need all the backstory. We don't need stories from when you were 5. We only care about, right? And your watchers and your listeners only care about where you were right before you got the support or, got the results, what you did to get those results, and then how you're going to show them how you got those results in this training. That's the whole point. Okay. People can connect with you as a person. They're not going to connect with you when like you were so far gone. Right. And this is also why I tell people in messaging in general and in content in general, we don't need to hear the complete rags to riches story. We don't. Okay. Because sometimes it can feel so daunting that people may feel like, wow, like this actually doesn't resonate with me. Okay. So, or you're going to get people thinking, like, I always tell people who are like, I'm going to teach you how to go from broke to 6 figures. Like, well, then you're going to get people that are broke trying to get to 6 figures. And that's not going to help you because they can't pay you. Okay. So you don't have to share your whole story. Just share the parts of your story that make sense on where you were, how you got the results that you got. And then you're going to spin it back in that training. I'm going to show you how you can do this too. Okay. Because it's all about possibility. That's really the first big part of this type of training. Okay. So hopefully that is helpful. The next part of a really successful Evergreen webinar, VSL, or mini course is understanding where they are in their current beliefs right now. So you often see a slide like you're probably like, this is you right now, or this is for you if, or you're probably thinking this right now. That type of slide is really powerful because it starts to tap into the psychology of what that ideal client is thinking. So a good example of this is you can say, like, I'll just use my own example. One of the things that I often say, and when I do our, trainings or belief shifts, is that I'll say, you're currently posting all day, every day on social media, and you have yet to get the results that you've been working so hard for, right? And you're this close, right, to burning out. Because for one, it taps into an action that they're doing on a daily basis that's not producing the result that they want. And then it's also tapping into a feeling or belief that they have right now that if they keep doing this, going down this route, they're going to get burnt out. Okay, so that's extremely important because you want them to feel like you get it, right? So you have to tap in. I usually say anywhere from 3 to 5 statements of their current beliefs, right? You're currently feeling this. You're currently experiencing X. You're currently going through this. You're currently taking this action and it's leading to no result. You're currently Googling every night how to lose 10 to 15 pounds while eating pizza, right? That's what you're currently believing. And that's the momentum and the energy that you're in. And I want to show you that like, you don't have to stay there. Okay. So that's what that slide's all about. It's really tapping into the psychology of where they're at, What are they laying up Googling at night? What are they feeling? What are they struggling with? And you, as the other person on the other side, understanding them, right? At this point in the training or the webinar, your goal is to show them that you understand, right? It's to humanize you, and it's also to show them that you understand. Okay, so this is really important. And I want to make a big thought piece here on this is that you saying vague stuff like you're currently stressed out. Well, no shit, Sherlock. Like, no shit. So saying something like that is not helpful. That's not actually tapping into their psychology, right? So something like what I said is you're currently posting on Instagram 24/7 and you're getting 5 or 6 likes and you're like, you're throwing your hands up in the air because you've been doing this for months and months and months and you've gotten no results. But this is what all the gurus said you should do, right? And if you don't know those current beliefs, this is a challenge for you to go back and study your ideal client, right? A lot of you guys, and I love y'all, a lot of y'all just don't know your ideal clients well enough or understand how they think or understand this, like the beliefs that they have, which is why your webinars and trainings aren't actually converting, because you're speaking in a way that maybe you would speak, but you're not speaking in a way that they would speak or speaking in a way that they believe or that they can get behind. Okay. And that leads me to my next point. The fourth part of a really successful, great training evergreen funnel is the context and the words that you're actually saying inside of the training and your tonality. Okay. So if I showed up in my webinar, it was like, welcome to the training, how to generate leads on autopilot. For one, there's no conviction there. They're going to be like, this girl don't even sound excited to be here. Right. And I can't tell you guys how many times I've had clients rewatch their trainings and their webinars and their mini courses. And they're like, wow, I sound like I have a stick up my ass. I'm like, exactly. You have to remember, this is a video that's going to be this funnel is going to be running 24/7, literally 24/7. So if your energy is like 1/10 of what you normally show up with, that's going to get you 1/10 of the results that you deserve. Okay, so the first thing I want you to think about when I say context is like, what's your tonality and what's your energy? If you're not a high energy person, that's okay. You don't have to be like me, but you do need to step it up a notch. You do need to show up like you have conviction in what you're talking about, because that innately is going to create authority, and that confidence is going to be felt through that video. Okay, so that's the first thing, tonality. The second thing is like the context when it comes to jargon and the words that you're actually saying. Sometimes, especially if you're in the B2B coaches space, make money space, if you're listening in that space, or even if you're not, oftentimes they use jargon that's way above our clients' heads. Okay, so my warm audience, I can say things like KPIs. You guys probably know what that means. But on a video where it's completely cold traffic, people that are strangers that don't know me, I'm not going to say KPIs if I'm talking about a concept. I'm going to say we need to track your data. We need to look at your numbers. We need to talk about your metrics. That's way more clear than KPIs. That's like so above people's head. It can be. Okay. So I want you to understand that when you're creating your webinars and VSLs, look at the actual words that you're like the actual copy that you're using in your actual trainings. Okay. So if it seems like if you, and a lot of people talk about this, but if a 5th or 6th grader couldn't read it, don't put it inside of your training. Don't use that language. Use something different. Use something a little bit more simpler and easier to digest and understand. Okay. The last part of this from a contextual standpoint is sometimes y'all talk about very vague concepts. So for example, I was helping a client last week go through her mini course specifically, and we were looking at some of her, like we have a process where it's called the 3 Ps. So it's a process that we teach inside of our formula when we teach people how to create, videos that actually convert into clients, really deeply invested trainings and transformational videos. And one of the things that we had to fix for her was one of her concepts that isn't part of her 3-part framework that she teaches. It was very vague. It was like something around like pricing for profit, which the title in itself isn't vague, it could be stronger, but it was more so like how she was actually explaining how it worked. So one of the slides that I like to have my clients put inside of their trainings and webinars is a slide about what the concept is. So for example, pricing for profit, if that's a concept and how you help people make money in their business, great. Right. But you need to explain how it works. You can't just say, we're going to price you for profit and then go to the next slide. That we don't know what that means. We don't know how that's going to actually happen. We don't see any tangible numbers or breakdowns. So especially if you're talking to somebody that doesn't know you, they're going to be like, what the hell does that mean? Okay, so if you're looking through your trainings and your webinars and your concepts are extremely vague or extremely generic, then I'm going to challenge you to break down how it works. Okay, so I'll give you guys an example. So in one of my trainings, I was just looking at it the other day. I actually have it on my desktop here. I'm just going to read it line by line for you guys. So let me pull it up real quick. So basically, one of the breakdowns of the first one that I see, I'm going to pull this one up. This is great. So how I teach Facebook and Instagram ads. So that's one of our pieces of how to actually build a group coaching program that you can sell on autopilot, right? So step 2 of our process is you need profitable Facebook and Instagram ads. So on my slide here, I break it down and I say how it works. I say you need a clear campaign and objective. You need super short ad copy focused on calling out your ideal client, their problem, and how you can help them solve their problem. And then from there, you actually need a call to action to take them to the next step and watch your automated sales content. By having profitable Facebook and Instagram ads, it's like adding fuel to the fire, and you're going to wake up to leads every single day, right? So that's how you want to break down exactly how a piece of your framework or your process or your system works. I'm not going to say what campaigns you need. I'm not going to say exactly what words in your ad copy you need. I'm not going to exactly say how you're going to build out this automated sales content or what specific call to action you need to put. But what I am going to say is like how it works from a general level. Oftentimes when you guys are explaining pieces of your process or your framework, it's like people can't see how it actually works. So they can't in their mind put the pieces of the puzzle, which makes them click off your video and go watch somebody else's. Okay. So when you're explaining your processes and your system inside of your webinars and VSLs, you want to explain how each part of your process works. Okay. You want to explain the how it works, but not what exactly every intricate detail and intricate part is. Okay. The 5th part of this is, and it kind of ties into what we just talked about, is your unique selling proposition clear? Simply put, your unique selling proposition is the way that you do things different than everybody else, period. Right. So I'll give you an example. So our unique selling proposition is that we can help you sell your group coaching program on autopilot without having to do tons of social media content, live launches, etc. That's what a lot of my competition is teaching. I teach the opposite, right? I teach an evergreen funnel. I teach ads. I basically am going against the grain. So this isn't, and there's other people that teach what I teach, but I am actively speaking out against, right? And being polarizing in the content that I create because, right, I want to show my ideal client and I want to attract my ideal client and repel everybody else. If you want to do launches and create, you want to do these big launches and you want to be on social media all day, then I'm not going to be the girl for you inside of this container, right? And there's going to be people that's what they want. They don't want an evergreen funnel. They don't want to do ads. So I'm not the coach for them. Simple. Okay. So at a high level, when you're doing your trainings and your webinars, you need to break that down into a process. So often, right, people just say, well, we're going to just help you make money or we're going to help you get into a relationship. And I'm the best at what I do, but there's no system, there's no process, there's no framework, there's no step-by-step. I don't care what it is that you sell. And I get pushback from this, especially from people that are like life coaches or more spiritual coaches. Well, what I do for my clients, everyone's different. They're not, you guys. They're not. Don't try to fight me on it because you're not going to win and I will beat you every time. It is not different. Getting somebody to a result is not that vastly different than the last person. Sure, there will be nuances. Sure, they may need it taught, explained in a slightly different way. But as far as the process to get there, it's the same. To lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. You need to have the right mindset, right? You need to have proper nutrition and you need to be moving your body. That's it. Your unique way of doing that, though, may be your unique mechanism may be keto, or it may be calorie counting, or it may be macros, right? Or maybe flexible dieting. That's your unique USP. Okay. And then you need to break that down into a process. First things first, you need to have the right mindset. Second, you need to have the right nutrition. And we're going to teach you how to do a keto diet. The third thing is you need to have a exercise routine that you actually can get behind, right? That's a process. Think about when you go to tie your shoe, there's a step by step. So I want you, if you're really struggling and haven't thought about this, I want you to break down your process. How do you get people the result that you claim? And first things first, you have to understand the result that you get people tangibly. Okay. So work your way back. Think about tying a shoe. The first thing you do is you put the shoe on, then you cross tie the laces, then you tie a knot, then you tie it again. That's a process. So that's what you need to get really clear on inside of your webinars so that people can understand step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay. And it doesn't need to be this like ultra detailed process. They don't need to know all the details. They just need to have an understanding of how it works. Okay. The 6th part of a really successful webinar or training is having social proof, period. I think you guys understand that. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but social proof, simply put, is having testimonials, client wins, case studies for each part of your process. Okay. So what works really well in webinars and trainings is going to be screenshots. It's going to be pictures of the person. Like, it's about showing that evidence of how that person got the results that they got. Now you may be like, well, Lattice, I don't have that many client results yet. That's okay. You are your best case study. So you need to pound on your results until you can get other people results. Okay. So if you're not including social proof in your webinars and your trainings, yeah, ought to start. And the last part of a really successful webinar and a training, if you don't already have it, is very direct call to actions. Okay. And why they need to call to action, why they should apply, why they should book a call. And then also being really clear about what's going to happen once they do that. I can't tell you guys how many times I've watched webinars and people are like, book a call, bye. And you're like, why? For what? What's this call about? People like feel like they don't know what's going on. Now, if you did a good enough job, people are going to be like, they're going to be like hanging onto the edge of their seat to the end to figure out how they can get help with the solution. Because time and time again throughout this webinar, this training, this video sales letter, you're presenting them with like nothing but like belief shifts. You're showing them how they can go from 0 to hero. You're showing them how they can overcome their problems. You're showing them, and then you're giving evidence. You're showing them, then you're giving evidence. Okay, so you've established his credibility. You've shown social proof. You've shown that you have a process. You've shown that this is a repeatable process. Now, of course, they're going to want to take the next step, right? So not everybody's going to book a call or apply to work with you, but a percentage of people will. Okay, so when I say clear call to actions, I mean very clear, right? Go apply now to work with us inside of our program so that we can help you implement the system that I just shared with you so that you can get on the road to consistent 10K months. It doesn't need to be long, you guys. It just needs to be clear. Okay. So those are the 7 pieces to a really clear and successful webinar at a really high level. Now, the last piece I want to talk to you guys about how to actually get your evergreen funnels to work is that you have to understand that what's not tracked can't be managed, or what's not tracked can't be fixed or managed. So I'm going to give you some standard key performance indicators, KPIs, data metrics that you should be looking at when you're setting up evergreen funnels. Okay. So the first one is when you have people opt in that go from giving your email to landing on the landing page, you want that to be at least 30%. If you had 100 people view that landing page, you want 30 of those people to opt in or more. So we've done a really good job. We have between a 50 to 60% conversion rate, opt-in rate. Okay. But baseline, you want that at 30%, industry standard. Now from there, right? And these are all numbers that like you need to be managing, period. And at first, you're going to manage this on a daily basis until your funnel is optimized. No excuses. Okay. Now, like for us, our funnel is pretty optimized. So I'm only looking at the data maybe once a week, every 2 weeks. But when I first was launching our funnels, and anytime I launch a new funnel, I'm looking at the data every single day. So I don't get my feelings, because so often, you guys, when people come to me about evergreen funnels, they're in their damn feelings. Like if you just put the feelings to the side and looked at the data is not going to lie to you, period. Okay. So you want, for your opt-in, from somebody landing on your page to opting in, 30%. From there, what you want to happen is that video or that webinar on that next page, you want a 40% watch rate or higher. So if you use something like Vimeo or even YouTube's a little bit harder, but we recommend Vimeo for hosting. You can click into the analytics section and it'll show you what the watch rate is. So we have found that a 40% watch rate or greater is going to be the best. How do you improve your watch rate? Everything I just talked about inside of that webinar. You can split test your title. You can look at the drop-off rates to see where are people dropping off. Maybe you did something weird in the webinar. Maybe your audio cut out. That's happened to clients before. Their audio cut out for 60 seconds. And because they never watched their webinar back, right? They're getting drop-offs and not getting the sales calls or applications that they want. But for 60 seconds, their audio is silent. Well, that's why. Right. So you want to watch your webinar back or your training back and go through it with a fine tooth comb. Okay. But you want a 40% watch rate. From there, what you want is, from that, you want a total of people that opt in. You want 20% of those people to apply or book a call with you. Okay. So if you're not getting that rate, then essentially, right, well, you want 20% for sales calls, and then you want about 10% for applications. Now, that is going to be a little bit different if you are working mostly with warm traffic versus cold traffic. So over here, we have a lot of cold traffic. So the numbers are naturally going to be a little bit lower because these people are strangers. So it may take a little bit more time for them to warm up. And that doesn't mean months and months. That could be a couple of days. So you may see that your numbers, you need to look more holistically at your data. So for sales calls, you want about a 20% rate. So if you had 100 people opt in for your funnel, you want about 20 of those to book a sales call. If you had 100 people opt in for your funnel, that was cold traffic, 20%, warm traffic, 30%. If you're doing an application-based funnel, my recommendation for cold traffic is about 10%. So about 10 out of 100 people to apply to work with you. And about, if you're doing warm traffic, you have a built audience, about 20% of those people. Now, obviously the higher, the better, of course, right? Typically, but these are some baseline numbers that you should be working towards. And then lastly, conversion rate, right? You want, say you had 10 people apply to work with you, you want at least 20% of those people to enroll, right? And if you're doing sales calls, you want about at least 30% of those people to enroll. So if you had, 15 calls, then you would want 5 of those 15 to close. I think that's 30%. I'm not a math wizard, so don't count, don't hate me because my math, but you guys get it, right? If you had 10 sales calls, you want 3 out of 10 of those to close. If you had 10 applications, you want 2 of those to close. Period. And then from there, you're constantly working on optimizing all of those numbers. Okay. And then the last piece here, which is something I do want my clients to look at, is their email open rates and the click-through rates on their emails. So in that nurture sequence in the back end from your funnel, right, you want at least 25% of people to be opening those emails. And you want at least a 1% click-through rate for them, for those call to actions in those emails, whether it's apply or book a call. Okay. So I know I kind of threw a lot of numbers at you guys, and I want to wrap this up with just really a mindset reframe about getting evergreen funnels to work. Is that you have to be honest with yourself. Like, are you willing to redo the funnel to get it right? Some people aren't, right? Which is why live launching, personally, like live launching, you can kind of get away with a lot and still produce really great results with the live launch because there's urgency, there's lots of like high energy, all of that. Right? With Evergreen, it's a little bit different. It's a little bit more meticulous. It's a little bit more, it's a lot more detailed. It's a lot of moving parts because you're having to manage the traffic. You're having to manage your energy. You're having to manage the data. You're having to manage the funnel. You're having to manage the emails. Like, not that you don't do that with a live launch, but it's kind of like you're kind of putting it all out on the field for 3 or 5 days in a live launch, and then you reconvene and then you do it all over again in 3 months. Where with Evergreen, you're looking at the data every single day. You are going to probably make adjustments every single week, every other week until you get it right. Okay. And once you get it right, the beautiful thing about Evergreen is that if you get it right, you can run we've ran our funnel for a year and a half. And I've made some tweaks here and there, but the baseline of our funnel hasn't changed that much. Okay. But I will say I did have to record our funnel like 7 or 8 times, probably more. Okay. And I did that by watching my actual funnel, going through my process, watching my videos, making notes, looking at the drop off rates, seeing where could I get clear from a messaging standpoint, what was unclear, what was vague, what was too much jargon, what was my tonality like, what were my emails saying? Did I need to change the subject lines? There's all these things that you have to look at from a very high level overview to get your funnel right. But once you get it right, whoo, honey, it's amazing. It's amazing what it can do for you and your business. Right now, I'm not worried about if we're going to get sales or not, because I have a funnel that's literally running 24/7 on my behalf. Right. So I want you guys to realize that Evergreen truly is worth it. You just have to really make a conscious decision. Are you willing to do whatever it takes? And if so, then this might be the right model for you. If you want something that's going to work on your behalf, whether you're showing up or not, then Evergreen will be the right model for you. And I don't know about you guys, live launching, I've done them, and I don't actually hate live launching that much. It's very exhausting for me, but you have to kind of choose your heart. So for me, I'm a projector. If you guys know human design, I say this all the time, but I don't personally want a business model that relies on if I have good energy or not, right? I want a business model, and I have a business model that once I've nearly perfected, which it's never perfect, there's always room for improvement. But once I've gotten my numbers and my data to a point where I'm satisfied, that can run for 6, 12, 18 months, and I don't have to do anything to it. Now, it took some time to get there, but it really feels like magic and it feels like bliss. So I want you guys to know that you have to have that honest conversation with yourself. Are you willing to do what it takes to make Evergreen work? If so, right, I want to help you, right? Because at the end of the day, Evergreen is just a dream. And I think a lot of people it only stays a dream for a lot of people, and it doesn't have to. Okay. So you guys can go ahead and comment below if you're watching this on the live, or if you're watching or listening to this on the podcast. I just want you to send me a DM with the word Evergreen, and let's talk about your funnel if you have one existing. If you don't have one, totally fine, but we'll ask you a couple questions to kind of see how can we help you, what your offer is, how can we get you to that next level? Because at the end of the day, by implementing an Evergreen funnel, you take away having to constantly worry about riding on the lines of this live launch, have to constantly worry about, are we going to make money this month or not? Right. And you may have recurring revenue from your launches, but at some point that's going to run out. And I don't want you guys to be in a situation where you're stuck like that. Okay. So send me a DM with the word Evergreen. Let's have a conversation over on Instagram about it. No pressure. We'll just ask you a few questions and then see how we can help you best so that you can actually launch an Evergreen funnel for your high ticket program, or B, fix the funnel that you already have so you can get on your way to making sales. So I hope you guys found this podcast super helpful. I just want to get more content out there about how to actually make these funnels work, because a lot of people have misconceptions that you just turn it on and it works. Sometimes that happens, but that's very rare. But once you can really go through it, fine tooth comb it, and put in the work, you will see the fruits of your labor. Okay. So I'm an Evergreen Queen for life. Just call me the Evergreen Queen, because I'm so passionate about this model, and I want more of y'all to get it working for yourselves in your business. So let me know, tag me over on Instagram if you found this helpful. And I'll see y'all in the next podcast. Have an amazing day.